So, if you've been looking at your electricity bill this summer, you might have noticed it's spiked.
Right. Yeah, spiked is putting it mildly for some people.
Exactly. Like in some parts of Europe, wholesale electricity prices jumped 30% in a single month.
Which is just a massive shock to the system.
It really is. But at the exact same time, artificial intelligence companies in the U.S. are quietly taking out hundreds of billions of dollars in private credit just to keep their servers running.
And while that's happening, nations in the global south are actively testing what is essentially a financial kill switch for the U.S. dollar.
Right. So welcome to this deep dive, because if you're looking around at the global economy right now, trying to make sense of how everything seems to be accelerating and, well, kind of cracking at the same time, you are definitely in the right place.
You really are. Today we're exploring the invisible forces that are violently rewiring the global economy, basically right under our feet.
Yeah, and it really is a moment of profound structural collision.
Definitely. I mean, we have an incredible stack of brand new, frankly, pretty dense reports that we are synthesizing today, just trying to figure out exactly how these pieces fit together.
And the sources we're looking at are heavy hitters. I mean, we've got a July 2026 bulletin from the Bank for International Settlements, the BIS detailing the macroeconomic shockwaves of AI.
Right, plus an economic analysis from Obella on this new Ambridge digital currency project.
We even pulled the literal technical documentation for the BRICS Pay decentralized cross-border messaging system. That's a mouthful.
It is, but it's crucial. And then, to ground all this digital theory in the physical world, we are looking at a July 2026 energy report from Greece, which is based on International Energy Agency data.
So it might sound like a completely disparate pile of reading, but I promise the through line connecting them is undeniable.
Yeah, it's all connected.
And that's our mission for you today. Like, how are the AI boom, this quiet revolution to dethrone the US dollar, and those surging electricity bills you're paying this summer all inextricably connected?
Let's establish the baseline here, right? We're witnessing a massive simultaneous upgrade to the global economy's software.
Meaning digital money and artificial intelligence.
Exactly. But that pristine new software is it's violently colliding with the messy physical hardware of human labor and outdated energy grids.
Which is the perfect framework for diving into the most hyped structural shift in the room, right? AI.
Yeah, let's start there. Because if you look at the BIS bulletin, that's bulletin number 130, it becomes very clear that we need to look way past the fun consumer chatbots.
Right. It's not just a neat tool for writing emails anymore.
No, not at all. It is behaving like a macroeconomic bulldozer.
A bulldozer. I mean, the numbers in the report back that up.
They do. The sheer footprint of AI-related investment, specifically building data centers, manufacturing advanced chips, laying down infrastructure, it's nearing 1% of total GDP in the most exposed economies.
Hang on, 1% of total GDP just on the underlying infrastructure to make the AI run.
1%.
That is a staggering amount of capital.
Yeah.
And looking at the data here, the way we are paying for it is honestly a little terrifying.
Right, because it's almost entirely debt financed.
Exactly. The BIS numbers on private credit show that in the U.S., private credit loans for AI firms went from basically zero in 2016 to $200 billion by 2025.
Wow.
And bond issuance hit $243 billion in 2025 alone.
You really have to look at the mechanism behind why they're taking on so much debt, to understand the actual risk here.
Right, because their free cash flows are actually shrinking, aren't they?
Exactly. They're spending money significantly faster than they can make it.
Yeah.
Because the physical requirements, the land, the servers, the cooling systems are astronomically expensive.
So they basically have to turn to public debt markets and these massive private credit lines just to keep the build-out moving forward at all.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack the logic there for a second, because it feels like someone maxing out 5 different credit cards to build this state-of-the-art billion-dollar factory, but they aren't totally sure what the factory is going to produce yet, or who is going to buy it. Are we just front-loading a massive debt bomb based on blind faith?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the BIS report refers to this as the productivity J-curve.
The J-curve, okay.
Yeah, the idea is that you take all the pain, all the capital expenditure, and the negative cash flow up front. That's the downward dip in the J.
Oh, I see.
And the bet is that eventually the productivity gains from this technology will be so massive that the line just shoots straight up and you easily pay off all that debt.
But waiting for that upward swing has to be incredibly stressful.
It is giving central bankers absolute nightmares right now.
Because it's completely scrambling the traditional signals they use to manage the economy.
Precisely. I mean, central banks basically have two main levers they worry about, which are demand and supply.
Right.
Right now, this massive debt-financed infrastructure build-out is acting like a shot of adrenaline to the demand side.
Because you have companies buying up real estate, ordering billions in concrete and silicon, plus you've got the wealth effects of booming AI stock valuations.
Exactly. And boosting aggregate demand like that is inherently inflationary.
Which is actually showing up in the trade data right now. The report shows that export prices for goods with high AI content have climbed markedly over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
While prices for non-AI goods have just stayed flat or even fallen. So that is the inflation side of the equation.
But then you have the supply side. The whole promise of AI is that it will massively boost efficiency.
Right, making everything faster and cheaper.
Exactly. The BIS estimates a potential increase of about 0.5 percentage points per year in what they call total factor productivity.
Okay, wait, let me stop you there, because total factor productivity sounds like textbook jargon.
Fair enough.
What does that actually mean for a regular business?
So think of it as the ultimate measure of efficiency. If a company uses the exact same amount of labor and the exact same amount of machinery, but suddenly produces way more output simply because they are working smarter, that is total factor productivity.
Ah, got it. So they're getting more out of the exact same inputs.
Right. If AI allows us to produce more goods and services much more efficiently, that expands global supply. And expanding supply pushes prices down.
So it's inherently disinflationary.
Exactly.
Wow. So if you are a central banker trying to set interest rates, you are looking at a machine that is simultaneously flooring the gas pedal with massive infrastructure spending,
Right.
while at the same time threatening to yank the emergency brake with future efficiency gains.
And this is exactly where the danger lies.
Yeah.
What happens if a central bank guesses wrong on the timing?
I mean, if they overestimate how much AI is actually improving supply right now, they might keep interest rates too low.
Which could let inflation spiral out of control.
Right.
But if they underestimate the demand surge and keep rates too high, they choke the broader economy trying to fight a ghost.
And we already saw how fragile this balancing act is, didn't we? With the SaaS, software as a service stock crash back in February 2026.
Yes, that is a perfect example. The market's expectations for immediate AI returns were so completely detached from the near-term reality that the bubble popped.
It disrupted entire sectors overnight.
And we are already seeing the real-world friction in the labor market from all of this.
Yeah, the BIS notes that in recent earnings calls, 80% of firms indicated concrete plans to automate processes.
80%. That is massive.
It really is. And in the U.S., between late 2023 and late 2025, employment growth in sectors highly exposed to AI grew 0.8 percentage points less than in low-exposure sectors.
This isn't just theoretical anymore.
No, it's not.
In countries that score high on the AI Preparedness Index, unemployment actually shifted up by 0.75 percentage points over the last 2 years.
While countries with low AI preparedness basically saw flat unemployment.
Exactly. The wait-and-see phase is totally over.
The report calls it a low hiring, low firing dynamic.
Right.
So firms aren't necessarily making headlines with massive layoffs, but if someone leaves a cognitive task role, they just quietly replace that function with an AI model.
Or they just freeze hiring for those departments entirely, which means the entry-level ramp for a lot of industries is simply vanishing.
So, if you're wondering why macroeconomic data matters to your daily life, this is it.
Absolutely.
This profound uncertainty about whether AI will cause inflation or deflation is directly dictating the interest rates on your mortgage, the yield on your savings, and the fundamental safety of your job over the next 5 years.
It's huge. Now, what I find incredibly compelling is that while central banks in the West are struggling to regulate this chaotic new AI economy, central banks globally, particularly in the East, are simultaneously building an entirely new digital architecture for money.
Which brings us perfectly to the second massive shift in our stack of sources.
Yes.
We're looking at a quiet revolution to rewire how global money actually moves, completely bypassing old established bottlenecks like the SWIFT messaging system and the US dollar.
Right.
Let's dig into the OBLA economic analysis of the Enbridge project, alongside the technical documentation for BRICS Pay.
Okay, to appreciate how revolutionary this is, we have to understand the friction in the current system first.
Right, the current plumbing.
Exactly. Right now, cross-border payments are incredibly slow, very expensive, and heavily reliant on correspondent banking.
Right.
If a business in Thailand wants to buy goods from the UAE, they usually can't just hand over Thai baht.
The money often has to be routed through an intermediary bank, converted into US dollars, and then converted again into UAE dirhams.
It's a system with toll booths at every single step.
Yeah, they nickel and dime you all the way.
But the Emerge project completely replaces that plumbing. It started back in 2017 as a small local test in Thailand called Project Inthanon.
Oh, wow. So it's been in the works for a while.
Yeah. But today, it has evolved into a massive multinational platform involving the BIS Innovation Hub and the central banks of China, Hong Kong, Thailand, the UAE, and now Saudi Arabia.
That is a serious lineup.
It is. And the core of it relies on wholesale central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs.
Which we should probably clarify for a second.
Yes, please do.
Just to be clear for everyone, when we say wholesale CBDCs, we aren't talking about a digital dollar or a digital yuan that a regular person downloads on their phone to buy a coffee, right?
Exactly right. Retail CBDCs are for consumers. Wholesale CBDCs are strictly bank-to-bank plumbing.
Okay, got it.
They are programmable digital tokens used exclusively by central banks and massive commercial institutions to settle huge trades instantly.
And the efficiency gains they're seeing on Enbridge are staggering. The Obella report notes that this system cuts cross-border transaction costs by 50 to 70%.
And it reduces settlement time from days down to literal seconds.
Right, because it allows for spot foreign exchange directly between local currencies.
Exactly.
You're trading baht directly for dirham using smart contracts, entirely removing the New York correspondent banks and the US dollar as a bridge.
And running entirely parallel to Enbridge, you have the BRICS Pay Decentralized Cross-Border Messaging System, or DCMS.
Right.
Looking at the actual technical documentation, this is designed from the ground up as a decentralized alternative to SWIFT.
Yeah, we dug into the vulnerability analysis in their tech docs, and the way they ensure trust without a central authority is fascinating.
It relies heavily on unique cryptographic signatures, right, or hashes, for every single transaction.
Exactly. The mechanism is quite brilliant. The docs specifically outline a scenario where an intermediate node, let's say a transit bank, tries to alter a message.
Right. Imagine they try to sneakily raise the variable labeled max fee.
Just to skim a tiny bit of money off the top of the transaction as it passes through.
Yeah. But the moment they change even a single character in that code, the cryptographic signature instantly breaks.
The receiving node recognizes the mathematical mismatch, and the transaction is automatically canceled.
So the trust isn't based on a handshake or a banking license. The trust is hard-coded into the math.
The documentation explicitly states that no single owner can force the exclusion of a participant.
Right.
But here's where this gets genuinely interesting. And I have to push back a little on their use of the word decentralized.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because the BRICS Pay documentation clearly states that the nodes on this network are controlled by the system participants. And who are those participants? They are central banks and state-authorized financial institutions managing state digital currencies.
Right.
So if this is a system strictly run by governments to manage programmable state money, isn't calling it decentralized just clever branding?
That's a fair point.
Honestly, it sounds less like true decentralization and more like moving from a toll road owned by one guy to a toll road run by a committee of central bankers.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, your pushback is entirely valid. But it requires us to separate technical decentralization from political decentralization.
Okay, explain that.
Technically, yes, the ledger is distributed, the code allows for peer-to-peer messaging, and the cryptography prevents tampering by middlemen, so the math is decentralized.
Right, okay.
But politically, you are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
The primary goal here isn't to empower the everyday citizen with censorship-resistant money like Bitcoin.
Right.
The goal is to remove the single point of failure that exists in the current global financial system.
The US dollar.
Exactly. Right now, the dominant system SWIFT and the US dollar allows the United States to unilaterally impose economic sanctions and effectively cut entire countries off from global trade.
And we must remain completely impartial here, simply reporting the facts as presented in the source material.
Absolutely.
The Obella analysis objectively points out that this new architecture allows participating countries to completely avoid sanctions on dollar transactions.
Yeah.
It also notes, as a matter of factual record, that Donald Trump has explicitly threatened BRICS nations with severe economic consequences, such as 100% tariffs if they proceed to bypass the US dollar in bilateral trade. And regardless of any political views on those statements or the use of sanctions, the objective reality we're analyzing is that this new technology provides the exact infrastructure needed to evade those specific pressures.
The creators of BRICS aren't even hiding this. The technical documents literally highlight in their general information section that the key difference of the system is the impossibility of forced exclusion of participants, since there is no single owner.
They are actively building a financial internet that Washington cannot turn off.
Exactly.
So if you are sitting at home wondering why you should care about wholesale CBDCs or cross-border hashes, it really comes down to purchasing power.
It does.
Because the global dominance of the US dollar directly impacts the cost of absolutely everything you buy. Since the world needs dollars to trade, it affords the U.S. massive borrowing privileges and keeps import costs incredibly stable.
But if this parallel financial system succeeds and global trade meaningfully shifts away from the dollar, the balance of economic power shifts instantly.
The inflation insulation the U.S. has enjoyed for decades could simply vanish.
Yeah. So we have this massive debt-fueled AI infrastructure build-out demanding unprecedented resources.
Right.
And we simultaneously have these high-speed 247 digital currency networks designed to optimize global trade down to the microsecond.
That's a lot of software upgrades.
But all of this brilliant, frictionless digital software relies entirely on one piece of physical hardware.
Electricity. Which brings us to the physical squeeze.
Yes.
Because while we are busy building this digital utopia, the physical grid is quite literally cracking under the pressure.
It really is. Let's look at the final source, the International Energy Agency's Electricity Mid-Year Update 2026, alongside the regional energy data from Greece.
The numbers here are pretty grim for consumers. The IEA data shows that European Union wholesale spot electricity prices spiked over 30% year over year in the second quarter of 2026.
Over 30%. That's just a massive hit.
And zooming in on the Greek report, the wholesale prices in July jumped over 24% just compared to June. Yeah, the reports are actively warning consumers to brace themselves because this massive spike in wholesale costs is going to directly trigger massive increases in the green and yellow consumer retail tariffs for August.
The reports identify three main culprits causing this physical squeeze, and they illustrate exactly how fragile the system is right now.
Okay, let's go through them.
First, you have geopolitics. Ongoing tensions in the Middle East are causing severe price volatility for liquefied natural gas, or LNG.
Right, because even though we talk endlessly about the green energy transition, natural gas is still the vital baseline fuel keeping Europe powered.
Exactly, which ties directly into the second and third culprits.
Yeah.
We have extreme summer heat driving massive spikes in electricity demand because millions of people are running their air conditioning at maximum capacity.
Yeah.
But at the exact same time, we're seeing a structural failure of renewable energy to cover the evening loads.
So what does this all mean? Let's explain how this specific failure mechanism works, because it's the core of the pricing issue. The reports highlight that during the day, solar power is doing a phenomenal job. It's generating tons of cheap electricity.
But when the sun goes down, that solar production drops off a cliff.
But the demand doesn't drop.
No, people are still running their ACs when they get home from work. And those massive AI server farms we talked about earlier, they are still running their models 2047.
Exactly. So to keep the grid from experiencing a catastrophic blackout when the solar drops off, grid operators are forced to rapidly turn on incredibly expensive natural gas-fired power plants.
Because of the way electricity markets are priced, you have to fire up the most expensive volatile fuel at the exact moment demand is highest.
And that sets the price for the whole grid.
Yes.
You know, it honestly feels like we spent billions building the world's most advanced, massive, beautiful solar-powered sailboat.
I love that analogy.
But we completely forgot to buy batteries for when the sun goes down and the wind stops blowing.
This raises an important question, though, and it's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Policymakers are finally being forced to confront this.
Right.
The IEA points out that simply throwing more solar panels at the problem does not fix price volatility.
No, because if you just build more solar farms, you just get more wasted overproduction during the day.
Exactly. And you face the exact same severe power deficits at night.
You need somewhere to put the power.
Without massive, coordinated upgrades to grid reinforcement, utility-scale energy storage like mega batteries, and overall system flexibility, consumers are just going to keep getting hit by these brutal price whiplashes every single summer.
Which brings this entirely full circle to your wallet.
It does.
The transition to an AI-driven economy, the geopolitical shockwaves from the Middle East disrupting LNG, the lack of grid batteries to support renewables, these are not abstract macroeconomic concepts.
No, they are the mechanisms quite literally keeping the lights on at a premium in Europe.
Your monthly utility bill is the final physical receipt for all of this global friction.
It truly is a remarkable convergence. We are watching the architecture of the world change in real time.
Let's bring all these threads together. The world right now is trying to sprint into this frictionless future.
Right.
We want the absolute optimization of AI, and we want the real-time sovereign settlement of digital currencies. We desperately want the new global software to run perfectly.
But we are dragging these massive, heavy anchors of physical reality.
Yeah, we're dealing with uncertain human labor markets, resisting automation, shifting global alliances, fracturing traditional trade routes, and fundamentally outdated energy grids that literally cannot handle the load we are asking them to bear.
And that tension leaves me with a final thought, just looking past the immediate data in these reports.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the AI J-curve actually plays out, and it allows us to perfectly optimize global trade, and if Enbridge and BRICS pay allow us to execute those massive global trades seamlessly in a microsecond.
Right?
Will this frictionless digital economy just cause us to hit the physical limits of our planet that much faster?
Oh, wow.
Think about the sheer tonnage of copper required for these data centers, or the massive baseload power generation needed to sustain an AI-driven, high-frequency CBDC economy.
It's massive.
Are we essentially building a digital Ferrari only to drive it onto a physical dirt road? And if so, how soon until the axle simply snaps?
That is a brilliant, slightly terrifying point to mull over. Thank you for joining us as we explored the blueprints of this new economy.
It's been great.
It might be largely invisible, a landscape of digital hashes, algorithmic credit lines, and wholesale tokens. But as we've seen today, when those invisible forces collide with physical reality, it's our jobs, our currencies, and our power grids that take the impact. Keep looking past the obvious, keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.